A deaf girl loses her dog, the only one who understood her silence. We all get so attached to our pets that we think of them as part of our families. And for those who are hearing or speech impaired, their animal companions are often their best friends because they don't judge them for being different. Recently, a deaf teenager had to say goodbye to the only person who understood her silence, her dog Cooper. Since she was born, life had been pretty tough on this girl. She struggled in school, at home, and everywhere else, just because she couldn't hear. But she always had her dog, Cooper, who always seemed to understand her better than anyone else. The dog never let her feel alone and was always by her side, which made the girl believe that the two of them had a special connection. One day, her dog disappeared, and she started looking for him everywhere. She even knocked on the doors of the people she thought might have taken him, but no one knew where he was, so the girl began to lose hope of ever seeing him again. Fortunately, a local veterinarian eventually got in touch with her to tell her that they had found Cooper wandering around the neighborhood. He had a collar and a tag with the girl's name and phone number on it, so the vet had no trouble figuring out who he belonged to. As soon as she heard this, the girl immediately ran to the vet clinic, hoping that her dog hadn't been adopted in the meantime. And when she saw him, she was so happy that she fell into his paws and hugged him as hard as she could. Then she took him back home and gave him lots of love and affection. The girl was so grateful to the kind people at the vet clinic who helped her find her pet. They didn't know how much he meant to her, not just as a dog, but as a friend, a confidant, and a member of her family. But why did the dog leave the house? Why did he go wandering outside? Was he sick? Or was there some other reason why he needed to leave? All these questions were going through the girl's head, but she didn't know the answers to any of them. She spent a lot of time thinking about it, but the more she thought, the more confused she became. There was absolutely no way to know what had happened. She loved her dog very much, so she tried to find out if something was bothering him, if he wasn't feeling well, or if he needed to go to the vet. When she looked at him, she noticed that he seemed a little weaker than usual, but that could also be because he'd lost a few pounds. In any case, the girl decided that the best thing to do would be to take him to the vet to get checked out, and she did. She carried him in her arms, stroked his back, and talked to him quietly, telling him how much she loved him and how happy she was to have him back home. When the vet examined him, he told her that the dog was indeed sick. According to him, Cooper was suffering from a serious heart condition that would eventually kill him. The only treatment available would be surgery, but it was very expensive and not guaranteed to work. The girl's mother couldn't afford the surgery, so the vet offered to perform it for free. Everyone at the clinic learned about the dog's story and wanted to help the poor girl. They collected donations, and by the end of the day, they had raised enough money to save the dog's life. The operation lasted several hours, and the girl couldn't wait for it to be over. When the vet came out to give her an update, she immediately asked him if her dog was gonna make it. "Don't worry," the vet said, smiling at her. "You're the strongest girl I know. You'll pull through." After hearing this, the girl couldn't hold back her tears. She was so moved by everyone's kindness and support that she felt like she was living in a fairy tale. When she went to see her dog after the operation, she couldn't stop petting him. She was so glad that he was alive and that she had done everything she could to save him. The vet told her that the dog would need to rest for a few days before returning home. But the girl didn't want to leave his side for a second. She stayed with him in the clinic until it was time to go. When they got home, the girl spent all her free time playing with Cooper. She threw the ball, gave him treats, and just enjoyed watching him run and jump. Every day she could see how happy he was to be alive and how grateful he was for everything she had done for him. It made her so happy that she forgot about all her problems for a while, at least. Meanwhile, Cooper recovered quickly from his illness and was able to live a normal life again. He played with the girl, went for walks, and cuddled with her on the couch. They were best friends, and nothing could break their bond. One day, however, disaster struck again. Cooper suddenly became very ill and collapsed in front of the girl. She immediately called 911 and rushed him to the nearest vet clinic. But it was too late. Her beloved dog had died right in front of her eyes. The girl couldn't believe what had happened. She felt like her whole world was falling apart. She cried for hours, unable to understand why she had lost her best friend. The worst part was that she didn't even get to say goodbye to him. She was so heartbroken that she couldn't eat or sleep. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the fun times she had spent with Cooper. Days went by, but the girl still couldn't get over her dog's death. She felt so lonely without him. Every time she looked around the house, she saw reminders of him, his toys, his leash, and his food bowl. It was too painful for her to go on like this, so she decided to visit the vet clinic where Cooper had been treated. She wanted to know if there was any chance that he could still be alive, even though she knew deep down that this wasn't possible. When she got there, however, she saw a crowd of people gathered outside. They were all crying and hugging each other. The girl's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Cooper was still alive? What had happened? Before she could think more about it, one of the people outside the clinic approached her and said, "I'm so sorry, but your dog is dead. I'm really sorry, but it's the truth. No one could save him." The girl felt like the ground beneath her feet had vanished. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. How could this be happening? Why did her dog have to die? She burst into tears and fell to her knees. She cried for a long time, letting all her pain and sorrow flow out of her body. Finally, when she calmed down a bit, she went inside the clinic. There, on a table, she saw a small box with a white cloth over it. It was obvious what was inside. With trembling hands, the girl lifted the cloth and looked inside. It was Cooper. He was lying there peacefully, as if he were sleeping. The girl couldn't hold back her tears. She cried out loud, then threw herself on top of the dog, hugging him tightly. She didn't want to let go of him. Not now, not ever. For a moment, nothing else mattered except for the two of them, the girl and her dog. They were together again, and that's all that mattered. In the end, they had to say goodbye to each other, but the girl will never forget Cooper. The dog had been by her side through thick and thin, and she knew that he would always be with her in spirit. The bond between a girl and her dog was unbreakable, even in death. We can only imagine how difficult it must have been for the girl to lose not only her dog, but her best friend and confidant. However, it's important to remember that Cooper brought a lot of joy into her life during the time they spent together, and that's something that nobody can take away from her. What's important is that the dog lived a happy life alongside his owner, and that he knew how much she loved him. So do you like the ending of this story? Do you think it was right for the dog to die? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Also, please subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.